Welcome everybody. I'm Irene Pasternack, teaching Feldenkrais with Northwest Parkinson's Foundation. Today we're doing a lesson on hands, and in order to do this we're lying on the floor because our muscular habits are so strong when we're sitting that it's hard to discover new possibilities. So lie on the floor, your head supported on a pillow so that your spine is in line with itself. Feel free to bend your knees, put your feet standing. Sometimes lying with the legs long can be hard on your low back. If it ever starts to bother you, bend your knees. I see Rich has a roller under his knees. That works well too, or a cushion. And if you have glasses on, you might want to take your glasses off and just set them next to you. And remember that the purpose of what we're doing is the internal sensations and exploration. The actual movements don't matter as much. So take off your achievement hat, the trying to do it right. You don't need to watch other people do it. It's really about your internal sensation. And that in this lesson, you're looking for ease and pleasure. So first, before we dive into the lesson, with one hand, do some familiar movement. Things people talked about last week are twisting a key in a keyhole, pulling up pants, picking something up, opening a jar, threading a needle, just something that you can use to have sensation for what it feels like before and what it feels like after. Putting in an earring. All right, and then rest with your arms next to you on the floor. And take a moment to check in with yourself in terms of your comfort. As you're lying here and you imagine lying here for a while, is there any part of you that feels uncomfortable? And if so, is there something you could change to make it more comfortable? Sometimes if the low back is unhappy, bending the knees and standing the feet, or taking the feet a little wider apart can make it comfortable. And are your hands resting on the floor, or are they up a little bit? Some people need a little padding under their wrists in order for the arm to lie fully down. And now imagine it's still a beautiful summer day out. You're lying outside in the sand. And what's the shape of your body print in the sand? Where do you push the deepest into the ground, the hardest? You know, where would the print be the deepest? And what parts of you are raised up? Perhaps under the back of your neck, or the small of your back, or your knees, or your wrists. Okay. And bringing your attention to your right arm, how much of your right arm rests on the ground? What would the print of your right arm be? Perhaps your upper arm, your elbow, some people the forearms or the fingers. And compare it to your left arm. Does your left arm touch the ground in the same way your right arm does? Or does more of it or less of it? And what position have you chosen for your hands? I see a lot of variation. I see some people with their hands palm down. Go ahead and everybody try putting your hands palm down. See what that feels like in your shoulders. What part of your shoulder blades touch the ground. And then turn your hands palm up. And see what part of your arms and shoulder blades touch the ground. And then turn your arms so they're resting, your hands are resting on the pinky finger. So your palms face your thighs. Those are some of the positions that I see people, but each one has different implications for the shoulder. And now as you're lying there, get a sense of the distance between the front of your two shoulders and compare it to the distance between the back of your two shoulders. Which has more tightness to it? So if there was an elastic thread running from shoulder to shoulder in the front and another piece the same length in the back, which one would be tighter? Which one would be longer? Okay. Now, we're going to start working with your right hand. And I didn't mention this before, but you need some room on the right side of yourself. So Barbara, you might need to, just put some things aside or move over to a little bit so your right arm can extend. And then bring your right arm down by your side. And start with your right arm palm down and roll your whole arm so your palm goes up. And then slide your arm an inch or two out to the side. And when it's out to the, so the whole arm is on the floor. So palm down on the floor. Palm up on the floor. Roll your arm so it's palm up. And if it can rest on the floor, let it rest on the floor. And slide it out to the right a little bit. And then once it's out, roll it palm down and slide it back to your side. So it's palm down, you roll it, and when it's next to your side, you roll it palm up, slide it out to the side, roll it palm down, and slide it back to your side. You're going to do this many times, each time go an inch further. So palm up, slide it out to your side, palm down while it's out to your side, and roll it back. So the quality of this movement is what you're after, the sense of like you're petting a soft rug with the back of your hand as you go out, and then turning your hand and gently petting in the other direction. But with the same sensitivity of that you would pet a little kitten, not with your arm supported by the floor as much as possible, and then come back. This is always the moment in this lesson when I do it on the floor if I notice, boy, I really need to vacuum. Bud is saying he does that. He's noticing that. It's the other reason to have your head on a pillow or something so your head's not on whatever's on your floor. All right. Now rest with your hand at your side and compare the sensations left and right in your body. See if the right arm is settling into the floor in a different way than it did. There might be some sensation differences in your face, in your how your bottom rests on the floor, and in how your shoulder rests on the floor. Okay. Now with the right hand, rotate your hand so your pinky is on the floor and your palm faces your thigh. And in this position, take your index finger and very gently straighten it and bend it. And do it many times to feel what's the order that you straighten it. Do you straighten the finger, the tip of the finger first, or the big knuckle that's part of your palm first? So just the index fingers straightening and bending. And where in your body do you feel this movement? Do you feel it in your forearm or your shoulder? Just in the finger? And you're looking for ease at straightening and bending the finger. If you look at your finger, there's 3 bones in the finger. I'm just trying to get a sense of what each of those 3 bones does in your index finger. Sometimes you might feel this a little bit in the side of your neck, in your jaw. Just trying to make it an easy motion. Check in with yourself on your achievement focus we're not trying to straighten it to perfectly straight or bend it to totally bent, but just a little gentle. We're looking for ease. And notice the path that it takes. Have you found the easiest path? Does it help a little bit if you roll your hand as you straighten your finger? What if you roll your hand the other direction? Does that make it harder or easier? Do you somehow sequence your breath to it so that you straighten your finger as either you inhale or you exhale? And pause for a moment. And do your middle finger next. So begin to straighten it and bend it. And feel, does your middle finger operate independently or do the other fingers near it come with it? And are you as aware of the 3 bones in this finger as you were in your index finger? Or is this finger a little, somehow less connected to your brain? And on this finger, which joint moves first? Is it the big knuckle in your palm that straightens and then the finger uncurls like a fern unfurling from the bottom? Or does the tip of the finger move first, followed by the middle, followed by the end? Or the middle move first and then the top and bottom bones? We have habits for everything. Pause for a moment. And then begin to play with the 4th finger. And for the 4th finger to open and close, is this one like the middle finger that other fingers come along for the ride? And is it more comfortable if you slightly roll your arm? Is there a way that rolling the arm can allow that finger to find an easier path to lift? Do you sync this one with your breath? And pause for a moment. And explore your little finger, your pinky. Which of the 3 bones leads? And you have to roll your hand into a different position to allow the pinky freedom of motion. And rest that. And begin to move your thumb. And thumbs are different than the other fingers. They just have 2 bones in the digit part, the part that sticks out. And then there's another bone that goes up to your wrist. All our fingers have those. But feel, where does the motion start? And is it easier if your arm rolls a little? Or if your arm stays stationary? And which joint moves first? The one by your wrist The one right where your thumb leaves your palm, or the middle joint? All right, pause for a moment and just scan yourself left and right to feel for any differences in your right arm, your right hand, your right face, your right leg, your right breathing. Now begin to take the tip of your index finger toward your thumb, and your thumb toward the tip of your index finger. And imagine that between your thumb and your index finger, there's a grain of sand, and you're rolling that grain of sand between your thumb and your index finger. Does your index finger move, or just your thumb? Can your index finger roll the grain of sand? And just for crazy fun, there's probably one direction that you roll that grain of sand. Roll it the other way. Very lightly. And then begin to imagine that there's a little bit of something sticky between your thumb and your forefinger. And you stretch them apart and stretch that sticky whatever a little bit between your finger and your thumb. A piece of very soft elastic or fabric or silly putty or chewing gum, but you're just moving the pinky and the thumb, not the pinky, the index finger and the thumb toward and away. Looking for the most comfortable place for your hand to do that. Your arm can roll. Where do you feel that in your forearm? Then try your thumb and your middle finger. What part of your thumb and what part of your middle finger do you roll the grain of sand around? It's like somehow our body knows exactly where to put that grain of sand to roll it. And then when you stretch the two apart, is that the spot that you stretch apart? No force, just trying to be as easy and to experiment to see if there's anything you can do to make this easier. It might be that the angle that your upper arm is lying on the ground could change. And do you move your thumb and your middle finger the same amount as they go apart? Or does the middle finger lead the way, or does the thumb lead the way away? Try and make them move exactly the same amount. And then play with finger number 4, the ring finger. Find where's the spot you'd put the grain of sand to just lightly roll it. And then beginning to stretch something stretchy between your 4th finger and your thumb. And do you sequence your breathing with this? Do you breathe in or out as you stretch the two apart? And which one leads the way here? Does the thumb move more or the 4th finger? And then begin to play with the 5th finger. Where would you put the grain of sand on this finger? It's funny how it's in a different place on this finger. And then after you play with the sand, begin to take these two fingers away and toward each other. Again, you can move your whole arm if that helps you find an easy, comfortable path for this. All right, rest for a moment. Rest with your arms by your side in some symmetric kind of position. And see if one arm feels longer than the other. One hand feels a different shape than the other. Now bring all the fingertips together, the thumb and all four fingers, as if you were holding a piece of thread. And pull that thread in the easiest direction to pull it. And as you pull it an inch or two and then let your palm open so it's like a parachute unfolding or a jellyfish moving. And then you slide your hand again, and just do this with your right hand. It's interesting to notice sometimes you try to do something with the right hand and the left hand gets in on the action. But just your right hand. So you're making this little, holding onto a thread with all your fingers lightly. You pull back and then open your palm. It's a very calming motion. Your elbow can bend as part of this. Your breath can synchronize with it. And then rest with your arm long by your side. And feel if your mood is different left and right, if one side feels a little calmer. I often wake up in the middle of the night, and that's when I plan the lessons I'm going to teach the next day. And I was playing with this last night, and it put me so deeply to sleep. It was just a lovely way to fall asleep. I don't know if any of you are asleep. How about raise your arm if you're awake? Just kind of wave at the camera. You guys are doing better than me at the staying awake with this part. But that sense of profound calmness that comes with playing with one hand with this gentleness. All right, let's do a little bit with the other side. So first, with your hand palm down next to your side, you might have to move over a little bit to have room on your left side. Begin to roll your whole arm so your palm is up, and then slide your hand away from your body a little bit. Once it's away from your body, roll it palm down and slide it back towards you. As much as possible, let the floor support the weight of it. So you start palm down by your side, go to palm up, slide it out away from you, and then roll it palm down and bring it back to the floor. Sensing what's happening in your shoulder blade underneath you as you do this motion. Because in order to flip your hand over palm up, palm down, there's quite a bit of motion in your shoulder blade and your collarbone. Use your breath to help you. So it's like you're petting this beautiful fur, the softness. The palm up and the palm down. And then rest with your arm by your side. If you have your knees bent, it's better to have both bent than just one bent, if that's doable for you. Just in having the body symmetric as you do this is good. If that's uncomfortable, though, do what you need to do. Okay, now with the left hand, resting on the pinky finger to start, so it's rolled out a little bit. Begin to straighten and bend your index finger. And notice, where does that straightening start? Do all the joints participate, or is your body's habit to just have one joint do all the straightening? Slowly and gently. And then play with the middle finger. Remembering you can move your arm, you can move your palm to make this, you're looking for the easiest path to move that middle finger. And again, notice which other fingers come along for the ride. Unless you're a musician or some other fine craftsman who has really developed independence, for most people, the middle finger is a little bit attached to the others. And then try finger number 4. And then finger number 5. Each time noticing which joint leads the way and what's the path, what can the rest of you do to make it even more comfortable to straighten your finger. And then rest for a moment. See if your left side is beginning to settle a little bit. And then play with your left thumb, straightening it and bending it. Where does this motion begin? Does it help if you roll your arm a little bit as you do this motion? Try holding your arm really still and straightening your thumb, or letting the arm roll and straightening the thumb. And when you straighten the thumb, do you use all the joints in it? Or just the big ones down by your wrist, or just the little one and the part that sticks out? And begin now taking that movement of the thumb and coming towards your index finger. And with your eyes closed, do it a few times and see, do you always land on the exact same place when you close? Try landing on some different places so the fingers touch in slightly different ways. And then find the perfect spot to roll a grain of sand between your fingertips. Between thumb and forefinger. See which direction you naturally roll it in. Try rolling it in the other direction. And then begin to pull the thumb and the finger away from each other slowly. Noticing, what do you do with your arm to make that more comfortable? Which joints lead the way? Does the thumb move more or the index finger? And then begin to play with your other fingers the same way. So you roll the sand, and then after exploring rolling the sand, stretch the two apart. Go on to finger number 4. And finger number 5. looking always for comfort, always for the easiest path, and noticing which one leads. Is this movement smooth, or is there kind of a chunk jerkiness to it? And then rest. Rest, compare left and right. And now if you have your legs long, please bend your knees and stand your feet. Even if you have a roller under, you might want to just pull the roller aside so that you can, and have your knees pretty wide, a little wider than hip width is good. And put your hands by your sides, and then take your right hand on your right thigh and begin to slide it across your low belly over toward your waist on the other side, and then slide it back. And each time you slide across with the right arm, slide a little bit higher on yourself. So you'll end up crossing the top of your belly up toward your chest, up toward your shoulder, and begin to lift it and have the arm go further. If you lift your right hip a little bit, your arm might be able to go over in some of these places to touch the floor. It's like you roll partly to that side and your arm can roll across yourself. But the right foot has to press into the floor a little so that the right hip can lift up. And the higher that right hip comes off the floor, the more your right hand can touch the floor on the left side of you. And you be gentle with yourself. Your body will do what is just let it do what's comfortable. But you may be able to get your left hand over onto the floor by your shoulder and to sweep it up around your head and come back in a long arc on the other side of you. So it's the right arm is the one that's going to do this. The right arm crosses your body, you lift your right hip, and then the right hand can touch the floor on the left side of you. And then the hand can go up and around your head and come back on the left side, on the right side. Yeah. And for some of you, this is not going to be possible. And so don't force it if that's the case. Just go over to the side, exploring how can you lift your right hip in order to get your hand over to the floor. But many of you are being able to do this circle. And instead of going way up in the air, only go to where you can touch yourself or the floor. That's the constraint. Let your head stay on its pillow. Lift your right hip even more. You could try lengthening your left leg and just having your right leg bent. And maybe there's a place you could put the right foot that makes it easier for you to lift. So the right knee bent and the left leg long. Some of you have the opposite. So check in with yourself. Right knees pointing to the ceiling, left leg long on the floor. Okay. So your hand can touch the floor on the left side. Okay, and then rest on your back for a moment. And switch, rest with both knees bent. And then straighten your left leg. And take your left hand on your left thigh. So left hand to left thigh, right hand on the floor next to you, the right hand to the right of you. And take your left hand and go across your low belly to your right side. And then each time bring your hand back, and the next time slide up at a little higher angle. And your hand is soft like it was on the floor, like you're just touching a fine piece of cloth that you want to touch gently as you go across yourself. And your hand goes up higher and higher until you end up having to, so it goes across towards your right shoulder. And then by lifting your left hip, you can get your hand to the floor more. So you want your left knee bent and your right leg straight. Yeah, straighten the right leg. The left hand goes across up to your shoulder to touch the floor. But only if this is smooth and comfortable. It's just an easy movement of rolling your body, and by rolling your body, that's what lets your hand touch the floor. So it isn't an effort in the arm or shoulder, but it's the rolling of the body. If you're doing this, a few people have set up, you can take your arm across yourself and look that way as you bring your arm over your head. And see if you, for those on the floor, if you can bring your arm all the way around yourself to come back down on the left. And some of you don't have room to do that, and some of the bodies are not quite there. Just do as much as possible with the arm being gentle and soft on the floor. So you start by taking your arm across your belly, across your chest to touch the floor on your right side. And then rest for a moment. Just feel how the imprint that your body is making on the floor is different than it was at the beginning. Has the ground gotten any softer to lie on? Notice when you breathe in how much of you responds to your breath. And now we're going to do a movement that's similar to one we've done in sitting, where you put both hands on your hips and then run them both across your body as if you had a sweater and you were going to grab the bottom of the sweater and then come back to neutral. So we're just doing the beginning of the movement. And now let's try something else for a moment. Lift your bottom so your 2 feet are standing, and you use your standing feet to lift your bottom. And do that a few times so that you can find where's the right place to put your feet. Okay. And we're going to combine that motion with the taking off a shirt or sweater motion. So you put your hands on your hips, you let them cross softly on your belly, grab your imaginary sweater, lift your bottom off the floor as your elbows come up to the ceiling. And then both hands might be able to go back to the floor and come around. For some of you, they won't go that far. Just bring them back the same path that you took them up. Only bring them down to the floor if that's comfortable. But the higher you lift your bottom, the more your hands can go up toward your face. And then they might be able to come down to the floor and come around, and then you put your bottom down. So remember, the goal is looking for pleasure and ease, not going past what you can do. But by lifting your bottom, there may be a comfortable route. You could imagine if you were standing or sitting doing this, how the more you press your belly forward, which is like lifting your hips on the ground, it frees the shoulders and the arms to come up. Okay, and rest for a moment. Rest with everything long. And feel the length of your arms, the amount of contact your arms have with the ground, the imprint your shoulder blades are making on the ground. And then slowly roll yourself up to sitting. And take a moment just to let blood pressure equalize and then come on up to sitting at your, or to standing and then to sitting at your computer. I love how everybody is finding what they need, whether it's a chair to hold on to as you come up to sitting. And try some of the movements that you did at the beginning with your hand and see if it's gotten a little bit more comfortable to imagine whatever you were playing with at the beginning. And if your shoulders are feeling a little more relaxed, the sense of tension between the front of yourself and the back of yourself, your mood. You could try that last motion that we did. If you come and sit at the front of your chair with your feet wide, imagine the taking off a sweater, and feel how as soon as you start to lift, if you take your belly forward, the arms can lift a little more. Try doing that with your body curled forward and feel how quickly you get stuck. Yeah. And then instead, arch your back as you lift up. And then play with your hand a little bit gently as if you're conducting, and feel the connection between your neck and your arm, that your torso, your sternum has to go with whatever you do with your arm. Let your head and your eyes watch your arm as it moves in space. You can imagine that you're moving your arm in nice water. You're in a hot tub that's just the right temperature, not too hot, not too cold, and you're making some waves. Try it with your other arm. Just our fingers and our hands, when we leave them not connected, they are such little tiny muscles to do the big things we ask of them. But when we get this whole torso, you could take your arm across your chest to the other side. And rest for a moment. And I'd love to hear comments, thoughts. This was a different kind of lesson than many we've done. It was a gentler, slower. Did you like this? Yeah, thumbs up if you like this gentler, slower lying down ones. Okay. Good, we will do some more of those. I'm in an anatomy class this week studying shoulders. And so I'll have some new material for Thursday based on that. Yeah. Barbara.
Got to unmute. Oh yeah. I found it very intense, the subtle stuff with the fingers. And especially I was surprised it was my my right hand where it's my left side, which is my weaker side. And it was very emotional. And I didn't know I carried so much discomfort or pain in those little gestures got me kind of teared up on this side.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Our right
And I
hand,
did fall asleep when I did this finger on a couple fingers on the left.
our hands there's a lot of emotion in our hands because so much of how we interact with the world is through our hands.
Just,
And that not realizing how stiff things are, it's like, well, this has become the new normal. Once your brain gets that moment of sensing what's possible, tears come, but also some hope for the possibilities of getting that softer again come with that. Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
yeah, and it ties in with I've lost the stamina, or it's painful when I play guitar, and I haven't thought about a real concentration on the releasing through here. It's more always my legs or the bigger body stuff that I spend more time on.
And there aren't muscles that control our fingers in the hand. The muscles are all up here. And so it's getting this area coordinated and relaxed will make the biggest difference in the,
Thank you.
yeah. Sharon.
My hands are a whole lot less tense. They're very relaxed right now. And I thought it was all arthritis, but it's not.
You can have arthritis in the joints. You know, they do an MRI or an X-ray and there's the little bumps, but your hands don't have to have the tension and the pain. And when you let go of the tension, pain that you think, you put it beautifully. And that, again, is another way of giving hope of if you can learn how to keep the tension out of the arms or know that you can take it out by doing some of the movements from this lesson, you don't have to live with that kind of pain and tension in the hands. Yeah.
Irene, hi. Thank you for the great lesson. It was really very relaxing. And I was on the verge of falling asleep all the time by playing with a sense of deep relaxation and like alpha waves that started to be in the brain on the verge of sleeping.
Uh-huh.
But I discovered that my tension is in the neck, that the stiffness, the inability to make the fingers pliable, it is very much connected to a stiff neck in this side, in the side of the arthritic hand. And it was very frustrating to hear all the knocking and like the popping and the creaking joints in the vertebrae. I don't know if it's the tendons or the vertebrae or the ligaments or the, yeah.
We'll talk more about that on Thursday because the muscles, well, you could feel in the back of your neck, if you flex your head, you bend your head down and you put a hand on the back of your neck, there's a big ligament that goes right down the back of your neck. And that attaches to your trapezius muscle, which is the main muscle that controls the shoulder blade and moves it up and down and toward your spine and whatever. And getting that and your shoulder blade moving will make a huge difference for what's happening in the hand. It's like the hand is the poor victim when these guys are not, that muscle isn't working in a coordinated way. So we're gonna keep on this shoulder and hand theme for a while because it's major for all of us. It's the way we interact with the world. But it gives you an idea that the place to start working is not necessarily with the hand, but it's with the shoulder blade and the connection to the neck.
And is there an access to this tendon, like how to relax it? How to make it less stiff,
Um,
the muscles in the back of the neck.
it's allowing your shoulder blade to move, because one end of those tendons goes to all the vertebrae on your neck, all the vertebrae in your thoracic spine, and then the muscle fibers go to different parts of your shoulder blade. So the more mobile your shoulder blade gets, the less stress there will be at the other end in the neck. So that's the place to start exploring. But we will cover more of this on Thursday because we are out of time for today. Thank you all for coming to class, and see you again on Thursday morning or afternoon or evening, depending on where in the world you are.
Thank you, Irene.